you're quite welcome, it is free. Don't do nothing that